Hello, I'm Anna Fowley. I'm the Chief Executive of SCVO, and today I'm joined by Shirley Otto, who is a well-known expert in charity governance and also an affiliate of Glasgow University Business School. And today we're going to be discussing Shirley's research into the history of trusteeship for charities and why that still matters today. So, Shirley, to start us off, would you tell us a little bit about your research and why you thought it was an area to explore?
Thank you, Anna, and thank you for this opportunity, I have to say. Now, for many years, as you know, I've worked alongside charities, helping trustees. Now, trustees could be called directors or committee members, but in law, they are trustees of charities. And having worked with them, I have a great respect for these volunteer trustees, but I'm concerned that perhaps we're not always alert to their contribution. Yep. Got very interested in them, and therefore decided there was a place for a bit of social history, a bit of heritage. And so now I'm an affiliate at the Business School in Glasgow. I'm exploring, first off, the kind of story, yes, from charity law when it first started in 1601, quite, through to last year.
Yep.
That was enough for me. It is an extraordinary story in which trustees have tried different ways of trying to get services to people. Yeah. Worked with each other and with the state. So the idea is to try and track how their role, how they understand their job, how they've responded over time, and especially their relationship with staff, with chief officers as well. So that's what I'm up to.
I think it's absolutely fascinating, as you know, and I'm sure other people will be very fascinated too. And I think it's really interesting that there's not much research being done on this when it's such an important part of our society.
Yes.
So you've heard me banging on several times about how I think charity governance feels a bit Victorian, but actually, as you've just said, it goes back to 1601. So you can tell us a little bit about those origins.
Yes, and it's very, very interesting.
It is.
But you have to go back in your imagination, if one can, to a time that is so different from ours. Yeah. And this is Elizabethan time. Elizabeth's on the throne, has been on for a time, dies the next year. Mm. One of the underpinnings to charity law is, curiously, death. Because the religion at the time said that when you died, you would spend years in purgatory, in hell. Yep. But one of the ways of kind of cutting back on those years was to endow a charitable institution, a school or a hospital, almshouses for the elderly, or even horse troughs, actually.
Gosh.
Yes. And in endowing it, you needed to ensure once you had died that the endowment continued, because if the endowment doesn't continue, if the charitable enterprise doesn't continue, you will spend longer in purgatory.
Okay.
So as a result, people needed a way of ensuring that their time in purgatory, which was lessened by this endowment, that the endowment could continue.
Yep.
So what the Elizabethans did, court did, was say, we'll take a well-established, long-established legal form of a trust and add into it charity. Because one of the things they want to do was, if you can think of the acute social unrest, the only social services you would find were the kindness of strangers, family, and charitable social welfare. Mm-hmm. The dilemma was, endowment had been going on for ages, but when you die, how do you make sure that the endowment continues? Because so often people made money out of these endowments. So what charity law said in 1601 is, if you are the trustee,
the trusted person,
a trusted person, a trustworthy person for a charity, you must not benefit financially. You've got to be for the relationship between the person who's the benefactor, gives the money, and the beneficiary, the child who's getting it, that's rescued, looked after, educated. Who looks after that relationship between the benefactor and the beneficiary? It's the trustee.
Absolutely. And I think that's a fundamental thing. But what we're talking about really is the origins of a fundamental part of the fabric of our society being about people reducing their time in purgatory. I think that's totally fascinating. So, thinking about that concept of the triangular relationship, as it were, basically what you're saying, Shirley, is 500 years on, we are still, the basics of what was around then still hold true. We do use different language, but charities basically are still independent entities legally. Trustees must act as the stewards of a charity's resources.
Absolutely.
And they must act in the interests of the beneficiaries. So that old French concept of cypre, which I've learned about from you, the use of the benefactor's money must stick as closely as possible to their original intentions. So thinking about that triangle of benefactor, beneficiary and trustee, what does that look like today, do you think?
Yes, no, it's a very, very good question. It's one of those things that on the television somebody will reply like, that's a very interesting question, meaning that's quite difficult. If you parcelled up who or what are we for, what is the promise that's being given and that we must meet and we must be steward of those resources? Because in those days and ever since, the role of the trustee is in some sense to keep the faith.
Yes.
Now, I know regulators want to make sure that they do their fiduciary duties.
Yes.
And quite rightly, as a taxpayer, I want to know the money's going where they say and that staff are properly looked after. That's quite proper. Yeah. But they also need to keep the faith. They're custodians. Yeah. And that's what I want to get across to people is you've not only got an extraordinary heritage, but also trustees have been custodians for a very long time and sometimes through very difficult circumstances.
Yes.
To ensure that usually some group who is not present, who isn't a constituency, get what people in their heart want them to get.
Absolutely.
It's not straightforward, but I think we've got to address it.